I had the great pleasure of meeting Kim because of one of her crazy adventures through physical therapy, and we became really good friends. The original title of my talk was The Difference 24 Hours Can Make, and I got here this morning and I saw that the title was different. And I said, oh, well, isn't this nice how life just throws you curveballs and you just duck and work your way with it? So the title of my talk is A Bad Day Only Lasts 24 Hours. And I'm wondering if any of you have had a bad day feel like it lasts for 24 days or 24 years. It was November 5th, 1989, and I was 11 years old. And I woke up, just like I do every day, just like all of us have the privilege of doing every day. I had just had a slumber party with my best friend, Sasha Nielsen. And my mom said I could sleep over if she would pick me up at 8:15 and bring me to church, because the rest of the family had already gone to church. So I said, okay. So she picked me up, dropped me off at church, went home. It was a normal Sunday. My dad was puttering around with construction projects at the house. My mom was, doing gardening and laundry and cooking and cleaning, and my older sisters were all off doing their thing. And I was just being my happy little 11-year-old self. And we had company that night for dinner. And the doorbell rang, and I was excited and ran to the door, and Tom, Maureen, Byrne walked in the door, and we're standing in the entryway, Tom and Maureen, my mom and my dad. And something came over me that day, in that moment, and I was overcome with this desire to hug my mom and just love on her. And I was hugging her and crawling all over her, and she's just talking to Maureen like an adult, completely oblivious to the fact that there's this 11-year-old monkey crawling all over her. And I was just like, oh, just love, 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 playing with her. And all of a sudden she realizes that there's this appendage crawling all over her because her body's doing this while she's trying to talk. She looks down at me and she goes, what are you doing? And I looked up at her and I said, I don't know. I just love you. And she smacked me on the butt, and she said, I love you too. Now get out of here. Go turn the heater down to 68 degrees. And I said, okay. And that was the last time I got to speak to my mother. Because 10 minutes later, there was pandemonium and screaming, and a blood vessel had ruptured in her brain. She was brought to the hospital, and she died that night. And the next day, that sun rose. But I didn't want to rise, because my life was forever changed. So theoretically, a bad day lasts 24 hours, but that one went on and on, because my nervous system adapted to the input that occurred. Now, does anybody like how this story feels in their body? If you bring your mind into your body right now and just notice, does anybody enjoy what they're feeling right now? I didn't either. But it unfortunately took me like 24 years to figure out how to not live that way, because my nervous system carried that memory and it was playing itself out in my life. It's just like Kim's story. These bad things happen, and then it activates this Judge Judy voice in your head, and it creates this reality in your body, and your mind get stuck in this catastrophic neurochemical chaos. And I spent 24 years living there, and I achieved and accomplished with the best of them. 6th in the nation, went on to get a doctorate, did all these great things, helping all these people, but inside, I felt horrible. So that conflict of my inner world and outer world were very different. So I'm wondering if there's any, I don't know this system, if there's a way to make that bigger. There we go. So there's a saying in science. So I have 16 years of physical therapy, lots of accolades in education, lots of experience helping people find their way out of these icky places in life. There's a saying where attention goes, neural firing goes, synapses grow. So I want everybody to just rise up a little bit taller in your chair. And I want you to just let your mind go over to this picture of the sunrise. And I want you to drink in, for just a brief moment, these colors. I want you to, as your body is rising tall and you see that sun, how the light is almost reaching to you with the rays of hope and promise of a new day and a new beginning. And I want your eyes to just take in, and I want you to take in with your body the colors that you see. You might be drawn to the blue, the purple, the red, the orange, but the vibrant grass. Where do I go? And I want you to just take this in, soak it up, drink it, take it all in. And now I want you to notice, how does your body feel? Just that little bit of a shift, 10 seconds of our attention focus can change the way our system fires and can change the way our system grows. So if we visually pay attention and if we change our body, boom, we can learn to change our state. So what I've discovered is that the body tells the truth about what's happening in our nervous system. And our nervous system is the system that controls every other system in our body. And it controls our entire experience of how we perceive life. And to take very complex neuroscience into a bite-sized piece that we can actually swallow, because I have a clinical doctorate, which means I'm very good at taking the research, the science, the data, and then I make it into something that we can use in life to make our lives better. So you can see this scan shows an image of two different states of the brain. On the left side, it's mostly blue with a little bit of red. That's a healthy brain image. On the right, you can see it looks different. There's more red throughout the whole system in the brain. So what I've come to conclude in my own philosophy, which is based on life experience, neuroscience, and 16 years of doctorate in physical therapy work, is that our brain can be in one of two states. We can be in the left, which is healthy, or we can be in the right, which is a state of persistent emotional and physical pain. Physical emotional pain occurs because the brain concludes that your organism is threatened. There's a perception of danger or threat, and that ultimately is what creates one's experience of pain, physical and or emotional. So we can be on the right or we can be on the left. Is this making good sense so far? This is a case study that is a very cool study of a Cirque du Soleil performer. She performs and does great things. She triumphs all the time. The top row is a picture of her brain while she's lying flat in a functional MRI unit. So she's having an image scanned of her brain, and she's comfortable. She's due for back surgery in 2 weeks' time because of a bulging disc and problems going down her leg. The second row, you can see all that red again. What they've had her do in this functional MRI unit is they have her arch her back, just like this. And it causes her pain, and her brain changes quickly, rapidly. Our brain changes, which changes our experience. They take her out then of that MRI unit, sit her down and have a conversation. They give her nervous system new input. Then they put her back in the machine, and they have her do that same movement of arching her back. And the third row is now what her brain looks like. So her experience of pain has completely changed, and it shows in her brain, even though she's doing the same movement. Why? Because they gave her 30 minutes of education as to what's going on. And I was trained as a PT to get to the source of symptoms. This is the source. It's our nervous system, and our nervous system drives 90% plus of our existence behind the scenes. It's unconscious. It's out of our awareness and control. But life plants these little red seed viruses in and can drive that bad day and make it go on for years. So I've had to learn for myself, and what I do is help other people change this. It's very exciting. So really, the nervous system is the thing that controls all of our experiences. And if you look on the left, it's your brain, your spinal cord. And if you look on the right, we are made up of 80 to 100 billion nerve cells. 80 to 100 billion. Do you know what a miracle it is that you're sitting here right now? 80 to 100 billion. And if they get going in the wrong channel, it can create havoc on your life for years. That's what we're about here today, is to change it into the direction that we want it to move. So these neurons look like trees, and they're connected to everything, above ground, underground. It's all within you. And my philosophy around body intelligence is that we can be in one of two channels in any given moment. We can be in our green tree channel, or we can be in our red tree channel. From the body perspective, when we're in our green tree channel, so our nervous system and our brain is looking like that left image, a nice, healthy brain filled with green trees, we tend to have more pleasant sensations in the body. And it doesn't matter what the body looks like. It's how you perceive it. If you perceive it as light, open, easy, healthy, happy, free, you're feeling pleasant sensations in your body, you're running your green tree living. If you're feeling unpleasant sensations, you're running more red tree living. Now, I lived in red trees and didn't know it for about 26 years. I had adrenal fatigue, I had chronic back pain, I had sciatica down both legs, I had a drop foot at one point in time, I had a pinched nerve in my neck, surgery on my shoulder. I was hurting every day doing work that I was doing. I had IBS, I had adrenal fatigue, I had blood pressure that spiked up at one point to 180 over 120. My normal is 130 over 70. That's not a good situation, folks. But on the outside, I'm good. I'm an All-American. I'm a doctor. Do you know how freaking exhausting that is? To run that paradoxical, conflicting lie? Because I was in my red tree forest. And when you're in the red tree forest of your body-mind, the voice is not nice inside your head. Let me tell you, Judge Judy is critical, harsh, blaming, judging, mean. I felt like a worthless piece of doo-doo. Normally I would say a different word, but I'm trying to be polite here. So when we have our red tree forest, we're perceiving our world as negative. I'm not good enough, you're not good enough, this situation's not good enough. Does anybody relate to this? The thing that's the most heartbreaking to me is when we're in our red tree forest, we are disconnected from ourselves. We go into these modes of protection and breakdown and defend and don't let any more bad things come in. And what happens is we don't let the good things come in because we're shielding and protected. So how do we change this? How do we move from our red tree to our green tree? Kim did a beautiful job of it. How do we do it on a day-to-day basis? We have to grow our green. And it's not just in your head. Most of us walk around glorifying the head, and the body is just this platter that carries your head around the world. We got to live in our bodies and experience the green there because that's where it is. Because when we're in our green, the world is perceived to be more positive. And we're connected to ourselves. We're connected to our source. We're connected to our spirit. Anybody know the Jolly Green Giant? He helps us grow our green. I had the privilege of speaking at the American Academy of Ophthalmology last week, and a physician came up to me at the end of the talk. So I was helping these eye doctors reduce their neck and back pain because they're looking into your eyeballs all day, and they have more than double the rate of any other medical doctor profession of injury. And he came to me with this stressed look. Panic is in his eyes and fear, but he's a doctor, so he's got to be okay. But the body tells the truth, and his body was telling me he was scared. He said, Renee, I have this pain in my neck, and it goes into my shoulder, and when I sleep for 8 or 9 hours, I wake up and it hurts. So I went to see the doctor, the orthopedic surgeon, and he said, oh, I have a bulging disc, and the look of just fear and panic. And despair in his voice. And I said, so it happens when you sleep 8 or 9 hours. What happens what do you normally sleep? He says, 4 or 5. I said, well, how is it when you wake up then? He says, it's fine. I said, so does your bulging disc still happen are your bulging discs still there? And he said, yeah. I said, so how do you put that together? And he said, oh, so there's such a quick authority that was a very red tree biased way of, oh, your pain is from this bulging disc. So he now thinks in his head, because the rules are your bulging disc, oh, you're going to have pain for 5 years, 10 years, the rest of your life. And what people don't know is that bulging discs are like wrinkles in the skin. They're a normal part of aging and having birthdays and celebrating your triumphs. So I asked him a question. I said, are your bulging discs there when you don't have pain? And he said, I suppose they are. I said, so is that the only reason why things are hurting? What if your body's just telling you, I'm not used to sleeping this much, and I'm stiff, and I need to move around? He said, oh, I never thought of it like that. I said, yeah, the bulging discs are okay. You just got to listen to your body and move a little bit differently. And I watched him shift from red to green. We live in a society that is inundating our systems with red all the time. And you will all hear these amazing stories of people today that don't let that red in this world take them out. They grow their green. And they triumph. And you know what? They sit a little taller. They feel a little stronger on the inside because they're fueled by their spirit, because they're connected to it. So what I have people do is this crazy little exercise called Fogbach and Connect. And your brain's already like, ooh, that's weird. Novelty keeps our brain interested and grows our green. So I want to invite everybody to journey with me for a moment into my ideology of Fogbach and Connect. If we can Fogbach and Connect and take in the good with our body and our mind and experience it, that's what changes our neurology. That's what shifts us quicker and faster out of these 24 hours of red tree into green tree. So if we can Fogbach and Connect and take in the good and touch that experience 60 times a day, it doesn't take much, 5-10 seconds, just a touch of a body felt sense, an experience of green. We can do anything like these people are going to show us today. We can overcome anything. So Fogbach, feet on ground. I want everybody to bring their feet to the ground. And I want everybody to bring their bottom to the chair. And congratulations, most of you have already done it. If you're standing, that's fine. You can just focus on your feet on ground. So I want you to bring your mind into your body. I want you to notice that you have a body and that it's here. And it's always been here, and that your breath is still here, and it's always been here. It's guided you, it's navigated you, it's fueled you, it's provided you the miracle of your life. I want you to feel the support of the chair as it holds you up. And I want you to just notice that you are being held. And in this moment, you are being supported. I want you to keep your eyes open or closed, whatever feels good for you. And I want you to imagine that you're at the start of a race. And this particular race in life has a finish line. And that finish line for all of us is going to be different. What is that thing we want to do? Is it our next race? Is it a conversation that's challenging? Is it a relationship that's tough? What is the finish line that you want to get to? And I want you to see it and feel it in your mind's eye right now. We all have hurdles in our way. That is a normal part of life. I want you to just give voice for a moment in your mind to the hurdles that are in your way of this thing you want to reach. Now I want you to bring yourself back to the chair, and I want you to think of a time in life where you triumphed, where you overcame. I want you to let that thought get as strong within you as it does. Let it grow, let it richen itself inside of your experience right now. Let that experience of triumph and conquering, where you have already achieved, you have already triumphed, you have already overcome, feel that, take that in. And take that feeling with you as you take off on your race towards your goal. And you see this hurdle before you, and you sail over it. Or you run around it. Or you go under it. But you go. You've got that feeling, the next hurdle comes, you take it again. Under, over, to the side, sailing, falling, doesn't matter. You've got this feeling of triumph inside of you, and you go again, and you go again. And I want you to see yourself as you reach that finish line, and I want you to feel that feeling inside of you of triumph and conquering. And you have won. Take this feeling in right now. Soak it up. Connect to that. Connect to yourself, your source, your being, your spirit. This is Fogbach and Connect. You have lots of opportunities today as you hear these next speakers to experience your green forest. And I want to invite all of you to take it in, soak it up, because this will make the bad days move by much, much faster for the rest of your days. Thank you.